Why does education exhaust so many Chinese families? Not just the students, the whole family. Parents, grandparents, savings, weekends, sleep, childhood. Everything gets pulled into the same road. And if you are watching this from outside China, it is easy to misunderstand this. You may think, Chinese parents are just strict. Chinese students just study too much. The gaokao is just a very hard college entrance exam. But that misses the real story. The gaokao is not only an exam. For a long time, it was one of the few roads ordinary families could actually see. A road out of the village. A road into the city. A road into a stable job. A road into a different social position. That is why this topic is so emotional. Because when a Chinese family talks about education, they are often not just asking, which school is better? They are asking, is this still a road? Or are we pushing our child into a road that no longer leads where it used to lead? Now imagine a family in China today. Dinner is over. The child is still doing homework in another room. The parents are sitting in front of a laptop. Several pages are open. Gaokao, A-level, IB, international school, overseas university. On the table, there is a piece of paper. Tuition, exam fees, application fees, living costs, maybe future immigration plans, maybe a second passport plan. At first, it looks like the parents are choosing a school route. But the more they calculate, the more they realize something uncomfortable. They are not just choosing a curriculum. They are choosing what kind of system will shape their child. And they are not even sure whether any of these roads still works. This is where the exhaustion comes from. It is not only about studying hard. It is about a promise that used to work and now feels less certain. To understand that promise, we have to go backward. Not all the way into a romantic version of ancient China, just far enough to see where the road came from. Move the camera back to the Ming and Qing dynasties. Imagine a rural family outside a county town. Night has fallen. The house is small. The oil lamp is weak. A child is sitting beside a wooden table, memorizing classical texts. His father may be repairing a tool. His mother may be thinking about tomorrow's rice. This family does not have much land. It does not have power. It does not have connections. What it can give the child is very limited. A lamp, a table, a few books, and one sentence. Study hard. Then maybe life will be different. Today, that sentence sounds so familiar that it almost feels empty. But back then, it was not empty. For many ordinary families, it was one of the few visible roads. The imperial examination system was not truly fair. Very few poor children could actually make it all the way up. If a family was really poor, keeping a child away from labor long enough to study was already difficult. So we should not turn the past into a fairy tale. This was not a beautiful story where any poor student could simply work hard and become an official. But the system had a strange power. It did not need everyone to pass. It only needed everyone to believe that the door existed, even if the door was far away, even if most families would never reach it. As long as the door existed, the family had a reason to endure. And a young man with ambition, frustration, and anger had a place to put that energy. Into books, into essays, into exams, into waiting for the next chance. That is why the imperial exam was so complicated. It really opened doors for a few people. And it also gathered the hopes of many more people into an orderly system. It was a door, but it was also a rope. This is very different from the way many people imagine ancient education in the West. If we move the camera to ancient Greece, Rome, or later medieval Europe, education could look very different for the elite. A noble child might have a tutor. He might learn rhetoric, philosophy, Latin, law, debate. You can imagine a teacher walking with students, talking about politics, ethics, nature, and what kind of person one should become. Knowledge was not only about producing the correct answer, it was also training a person to ask, argue, and judge. That picture is attractive. But we should not romanticize it. That was not everyday life for ordinary people. A peasant child, a servant's child, a child born into a lower status household was not casually invited into that world. Most people learned what helped them survive. Farm work, craft, church discipline, guild rules, the practical knowledge of staying alive. Europe was unequal too, but it did not build the same national imagination that China built. It did not create one massive shared road where ordinary families across the country could believe, read, take the exam, rank high, change the family's fate. China did. That is the deep background of Chinese education. Education was not only about knowledge, it was tied to family mobility, to status, to face, to the hope that one child could pull a household upward. And that old road did not disappear. It reappeared in modern form. The most powerful modern moment came in 1977. China restored the National College Entrance Exam. But do not imagine this as a neat policy story. Imagine a young person who had just returned to the city after being sent down to the countryside. He is back. But there is no real place for him. No stable job. No clear future. People around him may not say it directly, but the question is everywhere. What are you going to do now? Later, many young people in this situation were called unemployed youth. The phrase sounds light, but inside a family, it was heavy. It meant a young person standing at the doorway of life, unable to return to the past and not knowing how to enter the future. Then the news came. The gaokao was coming back. And the news did not arrive gently. Many people heard it from the radio, from newspapers, from neighbors, from someone riding back on a bicycle with the news. One later account describes hearing the news after the rice harvest while preparing to plant wheat. Someone else was already working in a factory, repairing vehicles by day and going through old textbooks at night. Many people did not have proper study materials. They borrowed books, copied problems, guessed what might be tested. And many people were simply not ready. Not because they were lazy, because for years they had no reason to believe that this door would open again. That is the cruel part. When opportunity suddenly appears, not everyone is standing at the same starting line. Some people had never put the books down. Some had already been pushed far away from books by life. Some heard the news and started running back toward the exam. In 1977, about 5.7 million people took the exam. The next spring, a little more than 270,000 entered college. So this was not a wide road that everyone passed through together. It was a narrow door that suddenly opened. It opened quickly. And for many people, it closed quickly too. Those who got through really did change their lives. Some went from being sent down youth workers or unemployed young people to becoming college students. Later, some became teachers, engineers, officials, researchers, professionals. This is why the gaokao became so powerful in the Chinese family imagination. Not because exams are sacred, not because test scores are perfectly fair, but because at that historical moment, an exam really did carry a small group of people into another layer of society. Families saw it happen. They remembered it. And the memory became inheritance. So when later generations of Chinese parents believed in the gaokao, they were not simply being irrational. They had seen the road work. Maybe someone in their village changed his life through it. Maybe a relative became the first college student in the family. Maybe one admission letter changed the way an entire household saw the future. That kind of story does not disappear quickly. It becomes a family instinct. But roads change. That is the painful part. In the past, a college admission letter could feel like a train ticket. You got it. You left where you came from. You entered a different future. Today, the ticket still exists. But the station is crowded. In 2025, About 13.35 million people signed up for the gaokao. In the same year, about 12.22 million college graduates were expected to enter the job market. For the class of 2026, the number is expected to be about 12.7 million. At the same time, China's birth population in 2025 fell to 7.92 million. Do not treat these numbers like a spreadsheet. Think of them like a photograph. On one side, more than 10 million young people are crowding near the exit. On the other side, fewer and fewer babies are entering the road. The road is still running on the old momentum. But the world at both ends of the road has changed. This is where today's parents feel trapped. As long as the child is still studying, the family can still say, "He is still on the road. She still has another chance. Maybe college will help. Maybe a better college will help. Maybe graduate school will help. Maybe the civil service exam will help. Maybe another certificate will help." It is unpleasant to say this, but for many families, education has become a giant waiting room. Everyone is holding a ticket. Everyone is waiting. But the announcement never clearly says where the next train is going. Then look at the most extreme version of this road. Hengshui. Do not treat it as just one school. Think of it as a picture of the system pushed to its limit. Media reports about Hengshui often stay in people's minds not because of abstract arguments, but because of small details. Students rushing from classroom to cafeteria and back within minutes. One report describes students developing the habit of finishing a meal in about 8 minutes. When you hear a detail like that, you become quiet for a second, because this is no longer a child talking about dreams. This is a child inside a pressure system, missing normal life. The early morning field. Rows of students. Uniform pace. Countdowns. Practice tests. Rankings. Every point feels like it is adding oxygen to the future. Parents who send children into this system are not trying to harm them. They are thinking, if the road is this crowded, my child has to run harder. If everyone is fighting for the exit, my child has to endure more. And to be fair, children do learn things there. Discipline, endurance, pressure tolerance, the ability to compress themselves into an exam paper. But that is also the problem. Knowledge is supposed to help a person understand the world, not only to gain 2 more points. If a child lives too long inside this kind of system, he may slowly learn a dangerous habit. Do not ask why this question matters. Ask how to get the point. Do not ask what I truly want to understand. Ask where the standard answer is. In the age of AI, this becomes even sharper. Because what AI does well is exactly this. Repeat. Summarize. Recognize patterns. Produce answers that look standard. So if education is still training children mainly to do that, what are we preparing them for? The future? Or a kind of work that machines are becoming better at? Chinese children are very good at enduring hardship. So the real question is no longer, can they suffer? They can. The question is, after all that suffering, what ability did they actually gain? And there is an even more painful layer. The fairness inside the exam room only covers one part of life. Look at Chen Chunshu. She was a girl from an ordinary family in Shandong. Years ago, she took the gaokao and scored 546 above the junior college admission line at the time. Her family had made real sacrifices for her education. Reports said her older brother, whose grades were also decent, went out to work early. Her father once said that as long as she got in, the family would support her even if they had to sell everything. This is the kind of sentence Chinese families understand immediately. It is not just, we care about education. It means one child moves forward and another child may have to step back. But Chen Chunshu thought she had not been admitted. So she went out to work. Years later, when she tried to sign up for adult education and checked her student record online, she found something strange. According to the system, she had already attended college. But the person who went was not her. Her admission notice, her files, her household registration information had been manipulated. A part of her life had been taken while she did not even know it was being taken. Think about that scene. An ordinary family finally pushes a child into the exam room. The child gets the score. But after the score, there is the admission notice. After the notice, there are records. After the records, there is an entire administrative process ordinary families cannot see. Inside the exam room, you compete with points. Outside the exam room, the road may not depend only on points. Then look at the Peking Union Medical College 4+4 case. Official investigations said there were problems with admission qualifications, academic misconduct in the dissertation, and later the degree, graduation certificate, medical qualification, and practicing certificate were revoked. Later reports also mentioned that people had provided convenience in areas such as transcripts, thesis work, and residency rotation arrangements. The most painful part for ordinary families is not only that one person was punished. It is that the case revealed something many people already suspected. Ordinary children have to knock on the door with scores. But some roads are not built only with scores. That is why so many ordinary families hold on to the gaokao so tightly. Not because they do not know it is hard, but because they know other roads may belong to them even less. A score is not the best road. But for many families, it is one of the few roads that is still visible. That is the complicated truth of the gaokao. It gave ordinary people real chances. And it also trapped ordinary people inside the imagination of chances. It was once a door. Then it became a long hallway. Now many people are walking in that hallway, no longer sure where the exit is, but still afraid to stop. Because stopping feels like losing even the last visible hope. This is why more Chinese families are looking at international routes. A-level, IB, international schools, overseas universities. These words sound like a different road, and sometimes they really can be. But they are not magic exits. They are different sorting systems. A-level lets a student specialize earlier. Fewer subjects. More depth in selected subjects. If a child already knows that he loves math, physics, economics, literature, or something similar, it may give him more room. He does not have to be dragged through every subject equally. He can put more energy where he has a clearer direction. But there is a price. He has to decide earlier who he is. He has to guess earlier what kind of future he wants. He has to turn interest into a path while he is still very young. IB is not simply happy education either. It is not the absence of pressure. It is a different shape of pressure. Breadth of subjects, essays, theory of knowledge, activities, communication, self-management. It pushes a child to prove that he is not only good at exams, but that also means it depends heavily on language environment, family resources, and the child's own initiative. So, the international route is not pressure-free. It changes the shape of pressure. The gaokao selects for stable output under a unified rule. A-level selects for earlier direction and deeper focus in fewer subjects. IB selects for reading, writing, expression, self-management, and the ability to handle multiple tasks. No route is naturally superior. No route is naturally easy. Each one trains a different kind of person. So, the real question for parents is not, which route sounds more prestigious? Which route looks more international? Which route hurts less? The real question is, what will this route take from my child? And what will it leave behind? Will it help the child understand himself more clearly? Or will it force him to perform a new identity earlier? Will it train the child to ask better questions? Or will it simply replace Chinese standard answers with English standard answers? Will it help the child understand the world? Or will it move the same competition onto a more expensive track? That is the difficult part about education. On the surface, you are choosing schools. But underneath, you are choosing a machine that shapes people. The imperial exam trained people to enter bureaucratic order. The restored gaokao trained a generation to re-enter society through a test. The extreme exam factory trains children to produce stable answers under intense pressure. A-level and IB train students in different directions with different costs, different advantages, and different hidden requirements. Every road shapes the child. Some forms of shaping are written openly in the curriculum. Others hide inside application rules, family bills, school culture, and the anxiety of parents. So this is not an argument that the gaokao is useless. That would be too shallow. The gaokao once gave ordinary people a visible road. We cannot deny that. But parents cannot assume that because a road worked once, it still leads to the same place today. And the overseas route is not a magical exit. It may open a child up. It may also turn anxiety into an English language version of the same anxiety. Before putting a child on any road, parents have to ask, who built this road? Who did it serve in the past? Who does it select today? What kind of child does it reward? What kind of child does it flatten? In the future, the least valuable thing may be the standard answer. Because machines will become better and better at producing standard answers. What matters more is whether a child can ask a real question, judge information, understand other people, use tools, turn tools into ability. If a road trains a child mainly to become a more stable answer machine, then no matter how hard that road is, it may not lead to the future. But if a road helps a child grow judgment, expression, curiosity, and the ability to act, then even if the road is hard, at least the hardship has a direction. So the question is simple, but not small. What is the child actually learning? Is he learning how to become a person who can judge, express, use tools, and understand the world? Or is he learning how to become more obedient, more stable, and better at producing standard answers? If a family cannot answer that question, then switching from gaokao to A-level or from A-level to IB may not be a real choice. It may only be moving from one road to another. It looks like choosing, but the road is still